To be fair, Cretaceous Park just doesn't have the same ring to it. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. As part of my Jurassic Park franchise review series, today I'm going to be talking about the 1993 sci-fi action-adventure film, Jurassic Park. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Jurassic Park stars Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum, and was directed by Steven Spielberg. Based on Michael Crichton's 1990 novel of the same name, it tells the story of a group of scientific experts who are tasked with assessing a theme park full of living dinosaurs. Reviewing Jurassic Park is about as intimidating as facing down a T-Rex on a rainy night. It's a gargantuan and formidable task. This is one of those films whose legacy is bigger than the film itself. It was a pop culture phenomenon immediately, but has become even more so over the decades since its release. Several of Steven Spielberg's movies have accomplished this feat, but Jurassic Park is one of those universally known movies. Even if you've never actually seen it before, you're aware of it. You can recognize the logo and the music. You associate a rippling glass of water with an approaching T-Rex. You know that life, finds a way. There's something special and exciting about movies like that, but it can also be intimidating too. To approach for a review, but even to approach for a first-time watch. This is a movie that I think people have first experienced in a lot of different ways. Watching it now, there's the pressure and knowledge of that legacy that no doubt has at least some influence on people. During the mid-90s, there was a lot of hype and Jurassic Park mania surrounding it that had its own influence. And even at the time of release, if you could somehow put aside the fact that this was a new Spielberg adventure film and all the expectations that came along with one, there was still that degree of influence, because this was based on a then-recent best-selling novel. My introduction to this movie was a bit different. Just like with Psycho and Jaws, a trip to Universal Studios when I was 6 years old was actually my introduction. So when I finally first watched the movie later that year, I wasn't influenced by the book or hype or legacy. I was influenced by that ride and the excitement that came from that final T-Rex jump scare. Whichever way you first experienced this movie, one of the things that immediately stands out is its premise. This is a dinosaur movie, but it's not set during a prehistoric era. The characters haven't fallen into some jungle crevice and discovered a land that time forgot. This was a movie set in then present day that had dinosaurs, not because of an accident or fantasy, but because of scientific advancement, because of de-extinction. Bringing back dinosaurs is of course pure sci-fi pseudoscience, but the concept and explanation behind it sounds just plausible enough that you buy into it. The first act actually has a lot of exposition and explanation of this process of de-extinction, but it hooks you because it's such a fascinating idea. And then combining that with what's essentially dinosaur Disneyland, it completely captures your imagination. I mean, what kid wouldn't want to go to a dinosaur theme park zoo? What adult wouldn't want to go? This movie does a lot of things right and is memorable for so many reasons, but I think perhaps the most powerful element of this film is its sense of wonder. Both within the film and the wonder that's instilled within the characters, but also with the wonder that's instilled with us as the audience. Like I just said, who wouldn't want to go to Jurassic Park and experience living dinosaurs? The excitement and awe on the faces of the characters when they first see the Brachiosaurus is the same excitement and awe we would have if we were there. And it's the same excitement and awe we get vicariously just from watching the scene. There's an undeniable sense of wonder, no matter how many times you watch the movie. The hatching scene, the Triceratops scene, the treetop hand-feeding scene, the film immerses you in the wonder of this park, and it all feels real. And if the visuals and characters weren't enough to get the job done, John Williams' score evokes that sense of wonder and amazement even more. But Jurassic Park isn't just some peaceful dinosaur fantasy fulfillment movie. It's actually a fantastically satisfying blend of genres. It does have that fun, exciting wonder, but it's also an action-adventure movie, an intriguing sci-fi film, and even a bit of a comedy at points from some of the character interactions. And although it may seem like a light Dino Park joyride for the first half of the film, this movie gets intense. It's funny, because even with how many times I've watched this movie, I always forget just how thrilling and suspenseful it gets. The first half really lulls you into this wondrous state, but that first T-Rex scene is something straight out of a horror movie. And the rest of this well-paced film jumps from action to thriller to horror to wonder and back again until the eventual resolution of the story. Both the wonder and the horror of this film owe much of their success to the creature design. This is a dinosaur movie, so the dinosaurs are pretty important, and the dino designs and special effects here are just wonderful. Not only do they still hold up nearly 20 years later, but they honestly still look great. This movie uses a blend of both CG and practical effects, nearly all of which were completely groundbreaking at the time. The CG dinosaurs are occasionally a little obvious to modern eyes, but really much of the CG work looks as good or better than some of the CGI we see nowadays. And on the practical effects side, the animatronic and puppeteered dinosaurs are still the stuff of movie magic legend. I mean, they even had guys acting in velociraptor suits for certain scenes. All the different techniques and styles, it's just amazing how real it still feels. The texture, the movement, the integration with the environment and rain, even the dinosaur sounds. It's all just so incredibly immersive. We've talked a lot about the dinosaurs, but I would be remiss not to mention our human characters. There are some changes here from the book, but this movie delivers a memorable cast of characters. Alan and Ellie are old school anti-tech, and in the case of Alan, anti-kid paleontologists who, unsurprisingly, find themselves facing issues with both of those things. The initially slimy and greedy, but ultimately caring and well-meaning John Hammond. Ian Malcolm, the heartthrob mathematician with a penchant for spouting off philosophical diatribes. Lex and Tim, the perpetually scared kids who constantly make the dumb decisions needed to keep things exciting. And of course, Dennis, the entertaining, albeit unnecessary, saboteur who's the closest thing the film has to a villain. In spite of some of the events in this film, Jurassic Park isn't a monster movie. It's not a creature feature. The Tyrannosaurus Rex and Velociraptor certainly pose a very real threat in the movie, but they aren't the villains. Really, humans are the villains here. Some intentionally, like Dennis, but most of the human villainy here is unintentional, derived much more from lack of foresight than from malevolence. This is a fun dinosaur adventure story, but it's also a cautionary tale about scientific advancement. It doesn't cast a negative light on research or progress, but it does shine a critical spotlight on the idea of those scientific advancements being hijacked for monetary gain and notoriety, without considering the possible consequences, which is a lesson that never seems to sink in with the characters in this franchise. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one is definitely the wonder of this film. Now, this might not be something that people necessarily consciously recognize or remember when they think of Jurassic Park, but most of those things that people do come up with link back into this sense of wonder. The concept of de-extinction and bringing dinosaurs back to life, the idea of an island theme park zoo where you can see these dinosaurs, they're amazing, imagination-feeding ideas, but then you get to actually see them on the screen. And even though it's science fiction, it feels plausible, and there's something so exciting and wondrous about being able to experience it, even vicariously through these characters. The second pro is the genre blend. I've talked about this in other reviews before, but oftentimes less is more when it comes to genre. Mixing two genres is easy enough, but when you start to add in a third, a fourth, a fifth, it gets tricky. It can start feeling confused and jumbled when it comes to tone and identity. So it's impressive when a film can really nail an effective and diverse blend of genres. And Jurassic Park does just that, with a little something for everyone. Action, adventure, sci-fi, thriller, comedy, horror. It transitions from one to the next without ever feeling jarring, and always feeling fun. Pro number three has gotta be the dinosaurs. Technically, this can partially be encompassed by pro number 1, but I guess for this pro, I'm really talking about the actual dinosaurs rather than the mere concept of dinosaurs. The creature design, the well ahead of its time CGI, the groundbreaking animatronics and puppeteering that brought the prehistoric co-stars of this film quite literally to life, even the sound design and mixing of extant animal noises ranging from baby elephants to dolphins in order to create what we will never actually be able to hear. This is a dinosaur movie, so it's a good thing that they make the pros here, but they remain just as spectacular every time you watch the movie. On the con side, the biggest issue is the unnecessary villain. Like I said before, this isn't a monster movie, so even though there are some dinosaurs that are certainly antagonistic, I don't think you can really view them as villains. The villainy of the story, truthfully, comes more from human greed and lack of respect for the power of nature. But we do get an actual tangible villain character in the form of Dennis. He technically is motivated by greed here, but it's his actions that directly catalyze the main issues in the film. Now, he adds humor and suspense to the story, and is definitely a memorable character, but I really think he's this unnecessary and redundant force. Why do we need him and that MacGuffin of a Barbasol can to create the issue? There's a perfectly good hurricane that could have just as easily caused the same problems. And I think it ultimately would have been more impactful and in line with the story's themes for the issues to be unintentional consequences due to lack of foresight and lack of respect for the power of nature. The second con doesn't inhibit my enjoyment too much, but there are definitely some frustrating character decisions in this movie. Of course, the extraordinarily dumb decisions that Lex and Tim make probably immediately come to everybody's mind. The whole flashlight thing honestly still makes me angry every time I watch the movie. But they are just kids. But then you've got adults. And not just any adults, but scientists, making decisions that are almost as dumb. I mean, these choices create excitement and suspense, and are in line with what you'd expect from an, at least partially, horror movie. But they are the kind of things that certainly irritate me a bit with every rewatch. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Jurassic Park, or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Jurassic Park 4.5 out of 5 paws. Despite some minor character and script issues, this is an exceptionally well-paced and well-mixed blend of sci-fi, action, and horror, full of spectacular special effects, memorable dialogue and moments, and enough wonder and fun to counterbalance its cautionary tale themes. I would recommend Jurassic Park to just about anyone. This is one of those iconic movies that everybody should see at least once. Of course, anybody who's ever liked dinosaurs will enjoy the inherent wonder here, but this movie's got a little something for everyone. Action, adventure, sci-fi, comedy, horror, dinosaurs, scientific, ethical, and moral conundrums. It's the kind of movie that can be viewed in different ways, depending on what you want to get out of it, which makes for a film with remarkably broad appeal. If you liked Jurassic Park, I would recommend Raiders of the Lost Ark. This first Indiana Jones movie may not feature dinosaurs, but it does have that classic Spielberg look and feel while delivering an adventurous and action-packed story about discoveries better left unmade. If you want another genre-blending 90s blockbuster, you might want to check out Independence Day. Dinosaurs are replaced by aliens, but Jeff Goldblum once again stars as a skeptical and sarcastic scientist, and even repeats one of his most famous and oft-quoted Jurassic Park lines. And if you're looking for another adventure about the awesome and uncontrollable power of nature, you should watch the original 1933 King Kong. Jurassic Park pays homage to this classic in an iconic scene, and both films share similar themes and groundbreaking special effects work. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Jurassic Park? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite dinosaur movie? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies. The way life should be.